I like to manifest with a damn plan. So I look at all of these areas of my life: relationships, finance, career, health, personal development, fun, and location. I rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. I will go over everything that went well in that area and the things that didn't go well. Hello friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Dream Bigger podcast. So today I am back with a solo, and we are doing the 2025 Glow Up series. So I told you guys that I would dedicate one episode to goal setting and vision boarding for the new year. I don't know about you guys, but this is a process that I am very particular about, and I actually also feel like it's really important in order to give your year like a theme, a direction, and just be really clear about what it is you want to achieve and having a very realistic plan in order to get there. So I guess the first thing we can get into is vision boarding. So I personally am someone who does a vision board, and then I also do a goal setting exercise, and then I do a video component as well, and I'll get into all of it. So let's first start with vision boarding. So I love vision boarding because I think it just puts your goals in front of you in like a visual manner, right? And I like, for me, when it comes to goal setting, I will do everything under the sun. Okay. I will do and try it all. I will write it down. I will make a plan, but then I also believe in all of like the woo-woo things, right? And I really do think that if you're looking at something over and over again, it does two things. Number one, I think it just normalizes it for you in your brain. And so I think it just, I think when something is normalized, it just feels less scary, and your nervous system is almost like ready for it to come into your life. And number two, it's one of those things, like, you know, they talk about that like red car, like I forget the actual theory, but like essentially say you buy a red car and then you start to notice that there's all of these red cars. And before you bought the car, you actually never noticed the number of red cars there were. And it's like, I think it's your reticular activating system, your RAS, that picks up on something that's familiar. So I feel like when things are on your vision board, you also start to notice them. And again, like it just adds to it becoming a normalized concept for you. So then once it's normalized, I feel like you call it in a lot easier with, of course, a plan, which I will get into. So what I like to do with a vision board is I like to save images, and I will do this by going through Pinterest. I do it on Instagram, and usually I'm compiling like images to use on my vision board throughout the years. So say I saw an image that was like particularly inspiring, I will save it. Like I'll have a screenshot so that later on when it comes time to make my vision board, I know what I want to put on there. So so you save all your images, and then I like to prepare it on Canva, which is extremely easy to use. You know, you just kind of have the right dimensions of your phone and your computer, and you just start to drag and drop images. It is like really the easiest thing that you can do. And I like to use it as both my desktop and my phone background. As I said, I love to just kind of have access to it and see it just subconsciously all the time. And here's something that I also really like to do. So outside of saving images that are not yours, I also really like to throw in images that have already happened, but you want to like level up / make it more normal. So as an example, I had put on this year's vision board a screenshot from our Black Friday Shopify sales. And the reason I put that screenshot was because that was our best performing month last year. And I really wanted to make that number like a very casual number for me. So, you know, like, and it's not just like, you know, like if you own a business or not, like it could even be like your bank account, for example. If it's at an all-time high and it's just something that you continue to look at over and over again, that kind of, again, it becomes the norm for you. So when I had that Shopify sale number, it was extremely high last year. But my goal was to put it on my vision board and for it to be like a normal thing that happens. And you know what? Like that actually did happen. Like so much so that figure that was like monumental to me last year, it's like on a bad month we'd do that number now. And that's not to like kind of diminish what that is. It's, again, I think it's a part of making it normal for me. So now when I look at my vision board and I see that number, obviously it's like, it's great that that number is there, but it's not this like crazy, like out of the ordinary number anymore. So anyway, that's like an example. What else did I put in? So like, yeah, like I like to put in things that have already come to pass. And let me tell you, for things that haven't, that I put in that are like net new, that weren't on my vision board, sorry, that hadn't happened to me, but like they're like net new images that I found on the internet or whatever. Honestly, it's crazy, you guys, but like every time I look back on my vision board, and I'm literally looking at my vision board right now because it's my phone background, I'm always shocked at how much of it actually happens. Like, of course, not every single thing has happened, but damn, like I'm pretty close. Like, out of all the images I have pasted on the vision board, like, you know, maybe 85% of it has happened. It's kind of crazy. And like a lot of it happened within like the first couple of months of the year. So anyway, those are like basically my tips when it comes to vision boarding. And then also when it comes to the images that you're selecting to add to your vision board, I like to pick ones that it looks like it could be me in the picture. Does that make sense? So the angle that the photography is being taken in, it's almost like I snapped it with my iPhone or someone snapped it of me. I need it to feel like believable, if that makes sense. So that is on all things vision boarding. I really believe in this, you guys. And of course, I don't think that you can just have a vision board with like no action plan. Like, again, I am very like logical, but at the same time I have some like woo in me, and you guys know I'm like obsessed with manifestation and all of that, but I like to manifest with a damn plan. And so that is where my goal setting like piece of this whole puzzle comes in. So I've talked about my goal setting process in the past. I do it every single year, but I wanted to go over it again with you guys. So essentially what I like to do with my goal setting exercise is that I look at each area of my life, and this kind of includes everything. So I'm going to list out all the different categories. Okay. So there's relationships, finance, career, health, personal development, fun, and location. So I look at all of these areas of my life and I rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. And then I get granular on everything that went well and everything that did not go well in that area. So say, for example, something is a 7 or a 6. I will go over everything that went well in that area and the things that didn't go well. And also, like in those areas, I will also pinpoint exactly what I would want that ideal scenario to look like. So for example, I'll go over location because this was something that I can speak to when it comes to my 2022 goals. Okay, so this was before moving to LA. We were still waiting on our visa, which if you've heard, you know, my podcast for a while and you've been a listener for a minute, like that was a long-winded process for us because of COVID and delays and all of that. So back in 2022, we were still living in Toronto, but we would come into LA and, you know, meet with our team here and all of that, but we hadn't officially moved here. And so location was like, I remember it was like a 2 out of 10. And I remember going through this exercise and I obviously wrote down everything that was right and everything that was wrong. And when I wrote down my ideal scenario, I got really granular about what I would want it to look like. So I talked about the fact that, you know, I wanted to live in a specific kind of home and I wanted it to be in a specific kind of neighborhood in LA, and, you know, what I wanted my home to look like, and just getting into as much detail as I possibly could. And then that kind of became a goal. Now, the thing is with the goals that you come up with, I think that there are certain things that you are allowed to dream for. And when it came to the location piece, that was a top goal for mine. It was a top goal for me to move to LA in like 2023. Like that was on my vision board, and it happened at the beginning of, or maybe it was 2022. One or the other. Basically, it was either 2022 or 23. We got our visa at the end of 22, which is why I think it was on my 22 goal list. But essentially, there was not much that I could do for this from like an actionable standpoint outside of making sure that my paperwork was sent in on time. But also, I gave myself like mini goals, like, you know, finding ways to be grateful for the position that I was in. And again, like sometimes it also takes that like complete acceptance of where you are while also being excited for the next step, right? So it's kind of a mix and match depending on what the goal is. So anyway, I'll go more into depth into all of this, but after I rate all the areas between a 1 and a 10, and then like I write down what is like what my ideal scenario would look like, what went wrong, what went right, then I go into the 3 areas that I'm least satisfied with, okay? And from there I pinpoint like 3 larger goals, okay, that I want to achieve within the upcoming year. So let's say, for example, okay, I'm like looking at each area. Let's say one of the areas that are doing really poorly for you is your health, okay? And then you go in and you kind of like look at what's going right and what's going wrong. So say you notice that, I don't know, it's like a 7 out of 10, and you notice that the things that are going wrong is that maybe you're eating out a little bit too much, or maybe you want to start moving more, right? Like going to the gym or working out more. So then from there, I would come up with like a goal of, okay, like my goal then for this year is to commit to working out X number of days a week or losing X amount of body fat, which is something that I've done in the past, whereby I don't like to do it by weight because that's not always accurate, but rather I like to do it with a goal that I had around my health. It was reducing my percentage of body fat, because I'm okay with my muscle increasing and my overall weight increasing, and I know that would happen because I go to the gym, right? And like I lift heavy weights and I'm happy with muscle development, but I wanted to bring my body fat percentage down. So I hope this makes sense, but essentially that's a tangible goal. And then from there, once you've identified like what your 3 big, huge goals are, then you come up with a monthly plan for how you can achieve those like big goals. So say, for example, okay, let's bring it to the body fat percentage goal, right? From there, every month you should have goals on how to do that. So is it, okay, I want to eat at home more, or I need to find a variation of workouts that I really love, or once a week I'm going to go out for a hike or play tennis or do something that's like really active in a social capacity. So you see, you've come up with a plan every single month in order to reach that big overarching goal, and it kind of becomes more bite-sized. So that kind of goes into my personal top 5, which again, I've talked about this from a business standpoint, which is something that we do with every team member at Array. We always make sure that we go in and discuss everyone's top 5 for the month, and we also do a previous month review every single month, okay? And so we started to do this for the company, and I was like, this should also be a check-in that I do on myself every single month. So essentially, at the beginning of every month, I go in and I write down like my top 5 for the month, and I want those top 5s to kind of like basically I want them to be reflective of my big 3 goals. Does that make sense? So I have like little bite-sized goals in order to get to my large goal. And the idea is that having these micro goals will just get you closer to achieving the macro goals, and then they just seem a lot more achievable, and you have kind of a roadmap in terms of like how to get there. Because I think the issue with these like goals / resolutions that people have is that they write these things down and yet there's no plan. And if you don't actually have a plan, then you're not going to get to whatever goal you have. And like it's the same philosophy as like if you have a business, right? Like, okay, like I want to do $1 million in my first year of business. Okay, how? Like, what is your monthly plan? Like, what are you going to do month over month? Like, how are you going to improve, right? And so that is what the like monthly top 5 is supposed to do for you. So of course we do it for our business, but also for your personal life. I highly recommend that you do this because it will keep you on track with your goals. And then of course, like I've talked about this in like other solos, but I think it's also really important to be reflecting upon your goals often to make sure that they're still in line with what you want, right? Because it could be that, 4 months into the year, you've checked off one large goal, and then maybe it's time to set another goal. So I love this time of year because it just really is a time for reflection for me, and it allows me to kind of see what I've accomplished in the last 365 days. But sometimes the goals that I set for myself they're done within the first like 4 months, right? Like sometimes that does happen and it's an incredible feeling, but then it's not time for me to relax. Like I just add on a new goal. You know what I mean? So I think also being like having personal top fives and just knowing what those micro goals are, it allows for frequent check-ins when it comes to these larger goals and making sure you're still aligned. And, it allows you to reflect upon if you need to change something or if you've already achieved something, time to move on to the next thing. Anyway, so that's kind of like my goal setting, like kind of roadmap / like checklist, if you will. So the last thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the video component. So every year at the end of the year, I create a video to myself that I watch at the end of the following year. Okay. And I do this on my birthday and I do this at the end of the year as well. And the reason is because it's like a time, what's it called? Like a time machine almost. It allows you to go back and see the goals and hopes that you'd had for yourself. And I actually got this this idea that I've been doing now for a few years from a book called Be Your Future Self Now. And I've talked about this book before. If you've not read it, I highly recommend you do. But in it, the first kind of case study that they had was for Mr. Beast, who a lot of you guys may know him. He's a big YouTuber. But this is what he did. Like, he actually put out a video on YouTube talking to himself. Like, I think it was like a 3-month, 6-month, and 1 year and 10-year versions of this thing that he talked about, like all of the goals and hopes and dreams that he had for himself to accomplish within those different timelines. And I do it yearly and then on my birthday again as well. And in it, I talk about where I am at this point of time. Then I talk about the things that I'm proud of for having accomplished in this last year. And then I talk about where I hope that I am 1 year from now. So I will talk about like all of the different facets of my life, where I hope I am in each of them. And then it's really cool to go back and see like what you accomplished, what you blew past. And again, I think that it's part and parcel of that manifestation piece that I've talked about, whereby there's certain things that you have when it comes to like a roadmap, like the goal setting exercise, but then there's other things that, I don't know, you put it out into the world, you put it into motion almost, and it just kind of works for you. And I also think the video element is one of those things where you've kind of like spoken it out loud, and so it kind of becomes like ingrained in your subconscious almost. And again, I think it's really crazy because every year when I watch this video to myself, I, number one, see how far I've come, and number two, it's really interesting, but I really do end up accomplishing like 90% of what I put out to do. So I think it's just all of these things are such interesting modalities that everyone should try. So that is everything for my goal setting and vision board part of this series. I hope you guys found it helpful. I really, as I've said, I really believe in this stuff. Let me know if you guys actually do it. And also let me know if you want me to do like a visual version of the vision boarding exercise. Wow, I said visual many times. But to like, if you want a visual version of that, then I can do that on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. So let me know. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm so excited for 2025. I know we're all going to be the most glowed up, badass versions of ourselves. And I will talk to you next week.